I'm Michelle Graves, your host on today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm glad to have you here. Now, at The Power of Money, we are interested in three things happening. First, we want you to get the necessary education so that you and your family can make the decisions that will impact positively on you in your financial life. The second thing is that you be empowered to prosper. I only want the best for you. And you can only get that if you have education and then the drive to make it happen. And the third thing that is so important to me is that you recognize that life is more than a journey and that you be energized so that you can begin to participate in the truly joyous experience of living. So, here's to empowerment, here's to education, and here's to energy. I'm Michelle Graves, your host, Power of Money, and here we go. And here we go on today's segment of The Power of Money, in continuing the theme for this year. I'm on a roll, folks. Entrepreneurship, starting your own business, growing your business, selling your business, all the things that you need to know about business, and the resources. That's so critical today. Why am I focusing on this, as I said in my last show? Because we're in the middle of a paradigm shift, folks. Things are never going to be the same. Not when a book was dropped on my porch yesterday by a drone, okay? I'm just keeping it real. I ordered the book and 24 hours later, it was delivered on my porch. And so I'm saying to all of you that if you think that things are going to get better or worse, it doesn't really matter. You're in the midst of change. And so I'm encouraging all of my viewers to take stock of your circumstances financially and to make some decisions, one of which, this is America. You want America to be great again? Start your own business and be a part of that great again. America was built by business owners. It was built by little people, farmers, who worked every day for their businesses. And now, more than any other time in history, we are on the apex, on the very brink of a technological revolution that is going to change not only the face of our country, but the face of the world. And so it is with great honor today that I have my next guest, who is Scott Koornyk, the president of a Dayton, Ohio-based organization called the Entrepreneur Center. Their thing is technology. So I had to have him on. I had to have him on because the drone experience for me was deep. It was deep looking up in the air and seeing something buzzing by that had just dropped my book. And so I said, this is very timely because I myself at 67, I don't even know what the heck is going on anymore, and I should. So again, it's not about you knowing everything, but it is about you opening up your brain, the thing over top of your neck, your head, and learning information that can help you and your family, and hopefully drive your decision to enter the world of entrepreneurship. It makes all the difference in the world if you do know what's going on. So I welcome my guest today, Scott Koornyk. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. This is such a delight. Give me a little bit of background about yourself.
So I was actually not born in Dayton, Ohio. I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
At a very young age, my family moved to Grand Rapids. I was there for most of my young life, but I was actually brought to Dayton by law school.
Okay.
So I am a graduate, UD Law School.
Okay, fine law school.
A graduate of UD Law School. And in truth, once I got here, I fell in love with the community. I fell in love with the people. Fell in love with the organizations.
Aren't they wonderful?
They really are. And so I stayed. And it
Good
is
for
now
you.
home, a lovely family. We live just south of town in Springboro, Ohio.
Yes,
I get a
yes.
chance to lead the Entrepreneur Center and contribute to this really remarkable community that I call home. So it's a pleasure.
Well, tell me a little bit. First, I'm glad you're in Dayton. I make the drive from Cincinnati to Dayton to do this show, and people say, "Why do you drive from Cincinnati?" I say it's almost 7 years, because this is an amazing community. This is where airplanes were born.
That's exactly right.
That's the mindset. Two guys, the Wright brothers, who did bicycles, went from bicycles
That's right.
to airplanes.
That's right.
Woo!
That's
That's an entrepreneur.
It's innovation, right?
That's innovation.
So I think about our community and innovation versus entrepreneurialism. So
Yeah.
innovation is this idea of coming up with new technologies, new concepts, new ways of thinking, right?
Right.
Entrepreneurialism is taking advantage of that thinking, those concepts, those technologies, and putting them into the market.
Yes,
Right? Creating,
yes.
as you said, economic value, changing your life, changing the
Yes.
trajectory of your life. And so what we try to really combine in the Entrepreneur Center, and I think this community is really good at combining that innovation with the entrepreneurial spirit.
I agree. I agree. Tell me a little bit about the Entrepreneur
Sure.
Center.
Not a new organization. Been
Okay.
around for about 20 years.
Mike, 20
years. We were actually founded in 1998. So a little bit over 20 years. We've been in our
My
current building
goodness.
for 20 years.
Okay.
We're right downtown, Monument Avenue, kind of by the ballpark.
Yeah, I know where that is.
And for most of that time, we focused on the entrepreneurs that have been in our building. So we use kind of the term as an incubator.
Okay.
Right? So for 20 years, almost 20 years, we've incubated companies. So you came to our building, you joined our sort of team, we surrounded you with support and assistance, and we helped those companies in our building grow, and we hope thrive and mature and go out into the world. The concept of incubation is you sort of warm the egg until it hatches, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
it's a good analogy. We try to help these businesses almost from inception to the point where they're really ready to spread their wings and fly,
Yeah.
to sort of scale. We help these companies grow. Now, as I said, that's been our history. We've done that for
Okay.
20 years. We kind of did a little pivot in about 2015.
Okay.
Now, while we still absolutely focus on helping businesses incubate and grow, kind of the aperture, the way we viewed the community expanded, and we're not just focused on the businesses that are in our building. We're really very community focused, and even beyond that, focused on entrepreneurs no matter what walk of life you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you look like. We're focused on entrepreneurs of all kinds, not just technology entrepreneurs,
Okay.
but social entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs who want to open a bakery or want to open a garage. We don't really care. We've got programs and resources for entrepreneurs of all kinds. Now, as you said, we are probably, if we have a strength, it is still the technology businesses. If you think about our staff, and our staff is about 15 people.
You've got 15 people.
We did, and we've expanded pretty quickly.
my goodness.
Historically, we've been 4 or 5 people, and we're 15 people now, running a number of different programs. Again, if we have any strength, I would say, in all candor, it's for technology entrepreneurs who are going to take a technology to market. But we do have programs for all entrepreneurs of all kinds.
So let me ask you, because this is so remarkable, you're 20 years old. Was your focus 20 years ago on technology?
So this is it's really kind of a fascinating story of our community.
Yes.
When the Entrepreneur Center started, we were actually focused on manufacturing companies.
Okay, that would make sense.
So the
This is the
intention,
Midwest.
intention for our building, physical building, 35,000 square feet, the intention for our building was to facilitate the growth of manufacturing companies. So you and I decide we want to open a manufacturing company. We're going to manufacture a widget.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Instead of going and getting a building and buying a bunch of tooling and all
Right
that,
there.
we could do that right in our building. Now, 20 years ago, the community probably wasn't quite ready for that. We didn't have the kind of density of manufacturing startups, companies that were
Okay,
starting as
okay.
manufacturing companies. And so that didn't probably work out as well as I think the vision was. And so then we became more of a general incubator.
Okay.
So it didn't matter what kind of business you were, didn't matter what technology you had. We were focused on more general companies, as long as you
Okay.
had a technology focus. And as I said, that continued for most of our 20 years, up until about 2015. And then the expansion for us has really been focused on businesses, as I said, outside of our building, businesses that want to start any kind of entrepreneurial organization. And again, we do have a little strength in technology businesses.
That is so interesting. What percent of your clients would you consider non-white?
Non-white, probably, Michelle, that's an interesting question, and I'll give you a fairly detailed answer, and
Okay.
forgive me for it. There's not an easy way to say
Okay.
half or a quarter. If you think about what the Entrepreneur Center does, when we
Okay.
think about general entrepreneurs, we call that our Small Business Development Center.
Okay.
All right? So we have a SBDC, Small Business Development Center, in our building. That's a team of about 5 people.
Okay.
I would say more than half of our entrepreneurs who participate in the Small Business Development Center are non-white,
Okay.
right? Minority
Okay.
entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about rural entrepreneurs. I'm not talking about female entrepreneurs, specifically minority entrepreneurs.
Okay,
Okay?
gotcha.
We run another program for technology entrepreneurs, very focused on companies that have a technology that they're marketing and are bringing to market. And about a quarter of our entrepreneurs in that program are
That is
minority.
remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very proud of that.
You should be.
We have one of the most diverse portfolios in the state of Ohio, and we're proud of that. We
Oh,
look
my
like
goodness.
our community. Our,
Yes.
our entrepreneurs
Yes,
look like the
yes,
community.
yes,
Obviously,
yes.
they are the
Yeah,
community.
they are.
But they really represent, I think, the best and the brightest of the community. And now when I talk about the technology entrepreneurs, I do mean rural, veteran communities, underserved communities, female minority entrepreneurs. But as I said, about a quarter of our portfolio.
That is, I'm telling you, there's something about Dayton, Ohio.
There absolutely is.
I've said this. I tell Dayton residents, stop demeaning your community. Oh, you're in Cincinnati. Oh, no. It's happening up here.
Yeah, yeah.
It really is.
And I hope, Michelle, what that really translates into is when we engage with a person,
Yes.
the first thing we see is not where they came from, what they look like, the community that they hail from. What we see is the entrepreneur.
Right.
The intellectual capital, the brain, as you said, right? What's above the neck,
What's
right?
above the neck?
I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what experiences you've got. There's value that I can provide to you to help you
Yes.
flourish wherever you are. So we really try to look at the entrepreneur as the entrepreneur. Now, clearly, the circumstances of the entrepreneur, the background of the entrepreneur, the structures that surround the entrepreneur, those matter. And
Yeah.
we're not oblivious to that, obviously. But what we try to do is try to create these parallel structures that support these entrepreneurs, no matter where they are, no matter where they come from, no matter what structures surround them. We want to create a structure that's supportive and helpful. And so if you're a 50-year-old, a white guy like me who's
Yeah.
starting a company, we have programs that are
Okay.
helpful. If you're a 27-year-old African-American female, we've got programs to
programs
help.
for you.
If you're straight out of school and you're thinking about, I think I want to be an entrepreneur, well, we've got programs for that.
So let me ask you, these programs, are they in group setting, like with the Cincinnati organization, or are they one-on-one?
Both.
Both.
So we understand that engaging with an organization can be intimidating,
It
right?
can be.
And so sometimes there's a power in having a group setting where you're surrounded by like-minded individuals, people who are going through some of the same things you're going through, right?
Right.
And so there's power in me being able to say, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go or what I'm supposed to do. Sometimes allowing a little bit more of a group environment can be very helpful. But we also believe that one-on-one coaching, one-on-one mentoring is incredibly powerful. So we have a mix of both. It depends on where you are. It depends on kind of what you need. It depends on how we can best support you and how we can best align our resources. So almost regardless of kind of how you learn, what kind of style you bring to your entrepreneurial journey, we've got programs that'll support individually or collectively the entrepreneur.
That is so amazing.
Yeah, we're very proud of what we've been able to do.
Viewers, bring the camera in, please, Ben. Viewers, you need to do this. What's your excuse? They do it all. They do group setting. They do mentoring and teaching, one-on-one coaching. And they help you to birth your baby. They're midwives. That's Powerful. I'm just telling you.
And
that's
it's
powerful.
free.
What did you say?
And it's free.
It's free?
Yeah.
Oh,
We're very
what?
fortunate. We're very fortunate to be in the community we're in, whether it's the local community, city of Dayton, Montgomery County, our surrounding counties, sitting in the state of Ohio, and engaged with the support structures that we engage with. Our services are free.
You do
walk in our front
not
door.
charge a dime.
You walk in our front
Where
door.
is your money? Wait. Now, you know, I'm a banker. I don't believe nothing.
Yep.
How are you able to do grants?
Indeed. And as I said, we're very fortunate to live in the community we live in. So the city of Dayton has been a tremendous supporter for really the entirety of the length of the Entrepreneur Center's
Oh my
tenure.
goodness.
They've been wonderful contributors, not only financially, although they certainly do that, but organizationally. The
Yes.
city really helps align to us, with us, helps us birth these great companies. We're also fortunate to sit in the state of Ohio. State of Ohio, through some really interesting programs, Small Business Development Center programs.
Right.
That's a federal and a state partnership. The federal government provides money to the states. The states then deploy money to these
Right,
SBDCs that I mentioned.
Right.
So that's funded by your and my taxpayer dollars, both state and federal dollars. So that's a grant to us from the state to provide the kind of support and services. And then really the third thing we do, Michelle, which is a state of Ohio program, is what's called the Entrepreneurial Services Program, ESP.
Tell
so
me
our
about
shorthand is ESP, right?
Okay.
So Entrepreneurial Services Program provides services to entrepreneurs to help them birth and grow their company. So when you engage with us, we provide a mentor. We call them an entrepreneur in residence.
Oh my goodness.
We provide this one-on-one relationship with the client. And then as you need things like lawyers, as
Yes.
you want to prototype a product, as you want to understand how you're going to market a product.
Scott, you
we
gotta
provide-
be kidding me.
Yeah.
You all provide that
we do.
type of support?
We provide services to entrepreneurs, exactly. So we
Oh,
pay,
my
through our
God.
ESP program, we pay for those services. Now, that's a state program. So thank the taxpayers of the state of Ohio, thank the administration
Right.
for this continued support of entrepreneurs. So you put those three things together, and what we do is entirely free of charge to our clients.
I must tell you, I am at a loss for words. That, can you tell me what your growth factor has been? I'm sure as more and more people are learning about this.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're getting more and more applicants.
We are, absolutely, and that's a beautiful thing.
It is.
We've got capacity for it. You know, we're not in a position where we don't have the resources to
Right.
support our entrepreneurs. Again, we've been very blessed to be in Dayton, Ohio, engage with the state government that we have, engage really with the federal government as well. That federal program, Small Business Development Center, that's a program that spans decades. That is not a new program.
I remember that. Yeah,
that program's
I do.
been all around a long time.
It has been.
But
But
you asked us about growth. So we're seeing year over year 20 and 30% growth of participants, applicants and participants in our program. So what that tells me and what we're sensing is there's sort of a rebirth of entrepreneurialism in the community, right?
Hallelujah.
I'll give you a very small example, a data point.
Give me one.
A data point for you. So in 2012, 2013, let's say 5 years ago, just for the sake of the
Okay.
discussion, about 5 years ago, we would collectively see 20 to 25 entrepreneurial, tech-focused entrepreneurs sort of wave their hand and say, I want to give this a shot, right? So call it 20 to 25 a year. In 2018, we had 81. Right? So our portfolio consisted of 81 entrepreneurs who waved their hands and said, I want to start a technology company. So that's a growth factor of 3 or 4, right? Now, there's a little bit of sort of built up demand for services, which we've worked through in 2017 and 18. But if you normalize that, Michelle, we're probably talking about 50 to 60 companies a year that are coming forward and saying, I have an idea, I have a technology, I have a problem I want to solve. And again, fortunately, given the resources that we have from our community, state, federal, local community, we're able to support them.
Scott, you sit in an enviable position. You know that.
Yes. In Dayton, Ohio,
I
yes.
think so. I'm not
Yeah, we really
just
do.
saying Dayton, Ohio.
We really do.
I'm talking about a prototype for the United States of America. Because, Scott, technology is here and accelerating.
That's right.
It is going to displace millions of people. I mean, Chase Manhattan Bank just opened up a branch in Cincinnati that is human-less. There are no humans at this branch. Everything are kiosks.
Yep.
If you want to see a human, you have to make an appointment. And so what that tells me is that there is tremendous transitional pain as people are being blown out, but tremendous opportunity for people that are willing to embrace what change looks like.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I would take it a step further.
Okay.
And again, I draw the distinction. I agree with everything you just said. I think there is a fear, legitimate, that people will be displaced in the workforce.
Yes.
There are tasks that can debate how well they can be handled, but they can be handled by
robots.
Right?
Don't have sick time.
Robots don't have sick times.
Baby time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe they got to be oiled and taken care of,
Maybe.
but they're working,
Yeah, they're
probably,
working.
they have a capacity that a human being doesn't.
Right.
So I think it's fair to say there is a concern about workers being displaced.
Right.
What I would say from a technology perspective, goes to your point, from a technology perspective, yes, those workers may be displaced, but I'm not at all concerned about that workforce not having something to do because of the advent of additional technologies. Look, we're solving problems today that very few people understand, right? We're solving the problems of tomorrow, right? Today. So again, to bring it back to Dayton, Ohio, sitting 15 minutes from you and I at this very moment is the Air Force Research Laboratories.
Can you believe that?
$5 billion, Wright-Patterson Air Force
Wright-Pat.
Base. $5 billion a year is spent researching technologies. Now, those technologies span the range of technology types: medical technologies, information technologies, materials technologies, aerospace systems technologies, which sounds like airplanes, and to a certain extent it is, obviously the U.S. Air Force, but their technology is about controlling machines, integrating with machines. These technologies are fascinating, and they're solving problems today that there's going to be a need in 10 and 15 years for, right? They're thinking way ahead. Now, here's the magic, though. They're doing all that research. You and I and the viewers, the taxpayers, are paying for that research.
Through the defense budget.
Through the defense budget,
And
exactly
our tax
right.
dollars. Got
Exactly
it.
right. So they're doing all this research. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant individuals at the Air Force Research Labs. That research is often done for the purposes of research.
For no other reason.
They're advancing the knowledge that we as a country and as a community have. That technology sits on sort of the proverbial shelf, right?
Yes.
It's patented. The U.S. government, federal government patented that technology, but it's sitting on
But
a
it
shelf.
still can be used.
Absolutely can be used, but nobody is taking it to market. Again, the purpose of the federal government is not to build businesses.
It actually isn't.
It's to research
Right.
and solve problems
For the public good.
That's exactly right. So there are about 2,400 pieces of intellectual property that sit on the shelf
2,400, Scott.
waiting to be used by any of your viewers, right? That's an engagement with the federal government through a license, very straightforward licensing process. You license that technology from the federal government and you put it to use in your business. So I always tell entrepreneurs, you may be an entrepreneur that thinks of solutions to problems. That may be your thing, right? You may be an entrepreneur who doesn't really think of solutions to problems, but you can run a business. You can grow a business.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
It doesn't matter what kind of entrepreneur you are. We have technologies that can solve problems. If you're capable of taking a technology, building a business around it, going to market, marketing, growing a business, growing a staff, these are technologies that are sitting there waiting to be utilized, waiting for somebody to come along and say,
Hey,
I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
I'll take this forward. And we have great examples, dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of people in this community who are doing that very thing. So any of your viewers,
Goodness gracious.
if they're
that's
interested in
amazing.
taking a technology which has millions of dollars worth of research in it already, taking that technology, adapting it to a commercial use, those technologies are sitting there, ready to be used. And it's really unique in that because of our proximity to Wright-Patterson,
Right.
those researchers, those scientists, the people that are going to help us move through that licensing process, they sit 15 minutes away from us.
So let me ask you a question, because how does a person know what's in that 2,400 item?
Yep.
I mean, how do you know?
Two ways. First of all, talk to us.
Okay.
Right? Call the Entrepreneur Center, 281-0168.
Okay.
Or go to the Entrepreneur Center, do a Google search for the Entrepreneur Center. It's www.techdayton.com. Pretty straightforward. Engage with us. We can help work through that process. We've got staff whose job it is to help translate technologies to market opportunity.
To market opportunity.
Okay? So that's one way.
That is $1 trillion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't even
Absolutely.
put a value on them having done the R&D, research and development, viewers, on a particular area.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then patent, and so what do they get out of it? The residual from a percent of the residual you license?
That's right. So the federal government will license that technology to you, and the
Goodness
federal government
gracious.
will get a relatively small, and I respectfully say that, a relatively small royalty on that technology.
Which they should.
They
did the
we-
work.
That's right.
We,
We
I mean,
paid for it.
Right.
The federal government has to be stewards of our taxpayer
They
dollars.
surely do.
And they therefore deserve, and we should want them to get a return. So they have a return. But here's the thing. The federal government doesn't have a profit motive. The federal government is not in this so that they get $1 billion technology and they have money flowing in. They understand that taxpayers fund research and development. Their job is
We
not
do.
to offset those costs necessarily with licenses. They want to generate as much revenue through those licenses as possible. They ought to. But their job is not to maximize that. So unlike a commercial entity, if you try to license a technology from me commercially,
Yeah.
I would engage with you as a commercial partner and I would try to maximize the return for my company, right?
Exactly. That's
The
good
federal
business.
government doesn't look to maximize, they look for a fair return for the taxpayer. That's a huge difference.
That is,
So you're engaging with an organization that doesn't want to beat you up and
Right.
extract maximum value from you. So I say those licenses are very fair to entrepreneurs, very fair to entrepreneurs. So excuse me, the process of getting that, you need some assistance getting through that. That's what we do. There are other organizations in Dayton that can help with that or in partnership with us can help. But getting that license in place, really pretty straightforward, Michelle. Not that difficult. And once you've got that license in place, it's your company.
oh, it's more than that. That kind of accessibility is quite attractive for venture capitalists to step
Indeed.
in to fund.
Indeed, that's exactly right.
I'm just saying to you, you don't have to present a case. The case is already done.
That's exactly right. You certainly don't have to defend the technology.
No, you do not.
What you've got to build with a venture capitalist, you've got to build the economic return
Right.
that VC is going to expect. But again, another data point for you. If we were to go back 5 years, the
Okay.
Dayton region was generating about $2 million of venture capital investment a year right, across the community.
Okay.
In 2008, we'll have more than $30 million.
Oh, and it's going to get more.
Oh, no question.
Oh
No
my
question.
gosh,
No
you've
doubt.
got you all
doubt.
are that Air Force base is your epicenter.
No question.
No question.
Well, for the U.S. government, for the federal government,
d-
for the Air Force, that is the
That is
epicenter
the
of research. It doesn't go anywhere else.
And I'm gonna take the extreme and say, if it doesn't happen in the air, it doesn't happen.
Well, again, you said it earlier, your drones.
Yeah.
I heard you, earlier today talk about, the advent of technology
Yeah.
and how drones and machines are going to sort of engage with us in different
Yes.
ways. Let's say that Amazon has 30 drones that it deploys to downtown Dayton, Ohio to drop packages off. How do you keep those drones from hitting each other?
I don't know. That's what
How do you keep those drones from running into buildings?
I don't know.
How do you keep those drones from not bumping into a banner that got hung up for a festival or
Right.
something that wasn't there when they mapped the street?
Right.
Right? That's all technology that came from the U.S. Air Force. And
No.
it's technology that's being developed today by the brilliant, bright minds at the Air Force Research Labs. So drone swarming, how you manage
Yeah,
large,
yeah.
how you manage large autonomous systems. That's all work that the U.S. Air Force has been working on for decades, way before I thought about it, you thought about it, right?
Because I'm going to tell you, I saw on television where we now have flying cars.
Oh yeah,
I watched a car
absolutely.
take off, and I
Absolutely.
immediately, that's the science in me, said, you are officially airborne. What about all of the other activity in the sky besides you? And what happens when there are millions of yous
Yep,
in the air?
yep. Gravity's a wonderful thing. When you're on the ground, right, and God bless you if you're in a car accident, right, but you're on the ground. You're not
on
falling
the
out of the sky.
ground. You're-
But if you think about, we're going to jump in a little car that's going to turn into an airplane,
it
I'm going to
did.
take off, and I'm going to go somewhere. Well, if you collide in the air, you're going to drop.
Splat.
That's not so good. So you got to be careful about what's around you, how you control the things around you, how the other things in the air know that you're there,
Yeah.
where you're going, how to avoid collision, what altitude should you be at. Those are all things that the federal government is working on for obvious reasons. That's
Well,
important
it's
to us as a
important
country,
for us, a country.
and as a military.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I am not, for whatever one thinks about that technology, and I know it's in process. I know that we don't have a finished outcome. But I must say, it was very nice to have my book dropped on my porch.
Absolutely.
24 hours
Absolutely.
after I ordered it.
No question.
And to look up the street and down the street and then look up and say, oh, no,
Yep.
you aren't doing that.
Yep. Yep. And so how long do you think is going to be until your food is delivered that way?
I would have to believe that is something that futurists never anticipated. I do know that the issue of being able to drive through and pick up your bags or have somebody deliver is antiquated when you look at the possibility of just having your food brought to
Oh,
your
no
home.
question. No question.
I mean, that changes the entire.
But again, it goes back to what I was saying. In an innovative community like Dayton,
Yes.
right? Certainly when you're engaging in an innovative culture like Dayton with organizations like
Yes,
AFRA and
yes.
our wonderful universities, the
Yeah,
University
I mean,
of Dayton,
yes.
Wright State,
Yes.
Sinclair, the fascinating research that's coming out of those institutions, those research institutions, when you put all of that together in the context of a state which is very forward-leaning when you think about innovation,
Yes.
we're not necessarily solving problems of tomorrow. You're solving problems well into the future. So again, Air Force, others, they've been thinking about these autonomous systems, these drones. How
Yeah.
do you control them? How do you engage with a physical system, right? Think about a fighter pilot. A fighter pilot gets hundreds of pieces of data thrown at him and her at any given moment. Well, there might be something to learn about how you control a car, how you engage with a screen that's in front of you. Where do you put sounds in your ear to warn you of another driver who's on the road and they're coming up behind you really quickly? Sound, spatial relationships of sounds, those things all matter, and they help
this
the
is
human
so
process
fascinating.
information.
Yes,
Well, where
yes.
did that come from? From the Air Force Research Labs.
So let's talk about, because information today, in my opinion, is the most powerful vehicle we have
Agree.
for advancing our society. What do we do in the face of what I call a separation of our community into people that know none of this? I know, Scott, you know that young people are on top of it, children, but they're engulfed in it.
That's right.
But what about older people? Where do they fit in?
Well, so as an older person,
Older than you.
what I always like to say is, yeah, look, my kids, knew how to do things on a tablet or a phone, or I mean, they're more connected
Yes.
than I will probably ever be.
Okay, that's comforting to know because I feel the same
Absolutely.
way.
But here's what I would say. As an older person, right?
Yeah.
If you're not immersed in this connected sort of culture, first thing is don't be intimidated by it.
Okay.
At the end of the day, don't be intimidated by it. Break it down into its simplest parts. Is there a business, again, you and I are talking about entrepreneurs here, is there a business problem that can be solved, right? I love millennials. I love the younger generation. We are surrounded by them.
Yes, we are.
And God bless them for it. They are wonderful entrepreneurs, socially conscious, right? All these great things. There's a benefit for being a little older, a little experience, right?
Oh, yeah.
I understand human nature maybe because I've been around a little bit longer. I understand the business culture maybe because I've been around a little bit longer. Your question is, how does an older person engage?
Yeah.
Take what you know and bring it to the party. Don't be intimidated by technology you don't understand. Put the technology to work on problems that you understand, right? And
Oh
so
my goodness, that's a very nice way of looking at it.
you'll figure the
Okay.
technology out.
Okay.
The technology is going to serve your purpose. But what purpose should it serve? What solution are you trying to present to the world, to your community, to whatever it is, right? So the first thing I always say to folks who are looking to kind of get in this space and maybe are a little older than they think they should be or than they think they could be to get involved, figure out a problem. Look around you, figure out problems that need solutions, and then search for a technology that solves the problem or develop it yourself, right? But you know a lot about problems, about people, about the community around you. Take that. That's your contribution, right? The technology ought to serve that. I think people sometimes think the technology has to be the focus, and it really doesn't. Technology ought to be in service of something. So bring what you know. You're far more valuable to that equation than you might think.
I like your perspective on that because my concern is that community has to maintain. Community has to be intact. Each generation brings something new, better, hopefully more progressive, but I don't want what I'm seeing happening in some segments of our culture, and that is people are being disregarded, age specific, you know what, they're too old. And I just think even the notion of retiring is offensive to me. Because how is it possible you take a lifetime of acquired knowledge and information, perhaps not on steroids like tech, and then you are relegated to watching television all the time or going to the park or playing chess and checkers and walking a dog while you can still walk. That's not a culture that I think is sustainable.
Right. I agree with you.
I think that technology can be tweaked to allow people to participate holistically in our society.
Well, I think to your point, the great promise of technology is that it really reduces barriers to connectivity.
Does it?
Right?
Okay.
So you think about any of the social media technologies, what's their purpose?
Actually, I keep up with the news.
Yep.
I talk to my friends.
Yep.
I look at stupid stuff.
Connectivity.
Yeah.
Right? Connectivity with stupid stuff sometimes, right?
You're right.
But it's connectivity. What problem existed? Well, the problem that existed there was we live in small communities by definition,
Yeah.
right? We're part of a regional community. We're part of a national community. We're part of a global community. How do you create community across the globe? Technology. Right?
Yes.
And so technology at the end of the day, I think, ought to serve the purpose of creating connectivity, ought to serve the purpose of solving a problem. So again, to your point, yeah, if you're at that point where you are of the retirement age and you want to continue to engage, you want to continue to give back, you want to continue to solve problems and create value, right? Technology is a wonderful tool. There are things that you've got available to you today that 10, 15, 20 years ago didn't exist and would make it almost impossible then to connect and engage the way you can be connected and engaged now.
Yes, yes.
So if you use technology the right way, again, to solve those problems, then technology is a wonderful tool. It's a tool. It's not a means to an end. It's a tool.
It's just a tool.
You don't develop technology because technology is great. That's research.
Okay, gotcha.
Right?
Right, it is. It is.
Research begets commercialization, the big term we use, commercialization. You're commercializing, taking to a market a technology. That's where the magic is. Research is fascinating, and I yield to no one with more respect than researchers. And a community is filled with them.
That is
Dayton,
just,
Ohio really is a research
community.
community.
It's just like, how did you forget that group?
Right, right.
Right, yeah, how?
But they're researching technologies that ultimately have to be used to
They have
create.
to go into market.
That's right.
They have to go into market.
Create economic value. Well, who does that, right? Sometimes the millennials do. That's great, the prototypical young entrepreneur. But why can't a 40-something or a 50-something or a 60-something do that same thing,
I totally agree.
right?
I totally
So
agree.
I would say, don't let the fear of the technology, don't let the fear of markets, the fear of connection dissuade you from becoming engaged. You bring value to that equation, you bring value to that process, and frankly, more experience, more insight, in truth, more stability sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, we are definitely, if you haven't figured it out by our age, you're just like, boom.
So take that
Yeah.
and bring it to a problem that you know how to solve. Bring it to a problem that you see that needs to be solved. Search for a technology or develop a technology to solve that problem. That's what commercialization is all about. And that's why I think Dayton, the face of Dayton really, for this information culture, this innovation culture, that's what I believe is changing the face of Dayton. And I think if you look at the evolution of our startup culture here, startup company culture, you look at the evolution of our innovation culture, our research culture, the engagement between our universities, AFRL, our state, our local governments, that's becoming a cohesive sort of partnership. That's becoming a cohesive whole.
That's what I am so excited about, because I don't believe you can ignore the power of the university.
Absolutely. No, you can't.
I mean,
you can't.
I don't mean to detract from my previous guest, but I was concerned about involvement of the universities. There was none. And it disturbed me because universities foster a culture of research and inquiry.
That's right.
They ask the question
That's right.
that you didn't even know to ask.
That's what they are supposed to
That's
do.
what they're supposed to do.
That's right. And so I didn't see your previous guest, but maybe in sort of a contra to that perspective, in Dayton, the University of Dayton Research Institute does hundreds of millions of dollars worth of research a year, much of it on behalf of the U.S. Air Force. They're in the backyard.
Oh, yes.
But also for commercial customers. That research makes its way to markets. Wright State, the Research Institute at Wright State, doing medical research that makes its way to markets. Sometimes that's through our organization. We have, I think, 13 or 14 different companies whose technologies came from our research institutes, whether it's AFRL, or whether it's Wright State, or whether it's UD. So the research culture, that innovation culture, tremendously important. In Dayton, that's integrated into what I call sort of the tech-based economic development culture, right? They're part of it. You're seeing in the news in Dayton the discussion of the arcade, right? This iconic 1903 center of trade in the community.
Yes.
In the 80s, it falls on harder times, it gets shuttered, and the community, through the leadership of the city of Dayton, Mayor Whaley and others, that's taking flight again. That's being redeveloped.
Yes.
Okay, who's the primary partner in that redevelopment? The University of Dayton and the Entrepreneur Center are creating an innovation center there, right?
My God.
So the university is engaged, University of Dayton engaged at the grassroots. Our primary partner in that entrepreneurial services program I told you about, Wright State University.
My gosh.
So the universities.
So you've got two universities,
That's right.
your government,
That's right.
and your organization.
That's right. But then think about the other contribution of the universities, the students,
Right.
right? So you bring Sinclair to the party there, University of Dayton, Wright State, and others, by the way, Central State. These great colleges and universities bring talent,
Right.
right? So sometimes younger talent.
It's perfectly fine with me.
The average student at Sinclair is 29 years old.
29.
29 years old.
They're not babies.
No, but they're coming out
Yeah.
and they're looking for opportunity. They're looking to create opportunity.
Right.
So you look at all those students, whether they're your early 20s, mid 20s, later, they're the brains of the future. They're the brains of this community. And so now what you're starting to see is a community that's increasingly a place they want to stay.
Right.
We're not going to lose those students as maybe we have
Right,
in the
because
past.
they're engaged.
Because they are engaged from the very early stages. From their time in college or university, they're engaged in the community. As they come out into the workforce, they're engaged in the
Engaged in the
community,
community.
right? I mean, the millennials, you and I sort of jokingly said the millennials, right? And they're young and inexperienced. Look, the energy,
Oh, but
the
their energy. Oh, we.
and the way that they think.
Oh my gosh, I love them. I'm
oh,
not kidding you. I think they invert
They do.
the model.
They do, which is a wonderful thing.
I mean, you're like, what did
When they
you
look
just
at you
say?
and they say, "Why do you do it that way?"
Yeah, I don't
And you
know.
realize,
Yeah,
maybe,
right.
well, I got to think about it. Maybe
Right.
there is no reason I did it that way, just that I've always done it that
I've
way.
always done it. I'm dealing with that right now with work-life balance.
Yeah.
Because as you know, with that generation, they are not going to worship a job. Oh no.
No.
If it's their family versus a job, guess what?
Yep.
Not going to happen.
Well, and it's a balance, right?
Right.
I mean, if you look at, my generation, I come in the office at 7 in the morning and I'm going home at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm doing my family stuff and I'm doing my community stuff and I'm engaged in my church, my synagogue or whatever, right? Those are my hours.
Right.
Well, the millennial, hate to,
Yeah,
sort
that's
of be
okay,
too
but
general,
okay.
but they would say, yeah, I'm in the office at 7, 8 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, I'm going to go meet my friend for coffee,
I'm like,
right? But I'll be back in the office and I'll continue to work.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? At 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they're probably still in the office. 10 o'clock, they may go out with some friends. They may hang out. They may do meetings. The point is, they don't work any less.
but it's how they work.
It's how they work, exactly right. And what a beautiful lesson for an older generation.
Like
and there is-
me.
and there's a lot to be learned from that, right?
Oh, listen, I have been a workaholic under the traditional definition most of my life. I did not feel you were accomplished until you had put in at least 12 hours, at least starting at 6 in the morning, and you chug along to 6 at night. You may golf down something for lunch, coffee, and then family. Really now? Really? And I look at this generation, and they're like, I was watching a TED Talk with a young person talking about work balance, and what he said is you're going to get it all done anyway. And I was so viscerally, I was offended. Like, what did you just say? I'm going to get it all done anyway? Then why have I spent my whole life working
Right.
counterintuitively?
Right.
That is amazing.
It's fascinating, right? When you start thinking about
I
that.
started thinking about it and I got less and less happy because I realized I had bought into a system that was not true.
And look, my style may be that I'm more comfortable in an office environment, more comfortable in a 8 to 5 workday, right? That's fine. That's fine. It's a style, right?
Right.
Someone else may have a very different style. The point is you can learn a lot from those
Yes.
various styles.
Yes.
And to bring it back to the reason that you engage in this conversation with me, from an entrepreneurial perspective,
Right.
there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. right?
That's where I'm getting
It's not,
stuck.
it's not easy to be an entrepreneur.
Period.
Look, it is not easy to be an entrepreneur. You know, we sometimes engage in this question, are you born an entrepreneur? Can you learn to be an entrepreneur? I think both are true. There are definitely entrepreneurs who are born to be entrepreneurs, right?
Yep.
There are entrepreneurs who really struggled to be successful entrepreneurs until they got the right kind of support and education, right? So viewers don't need to worry about, I don't think I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have the skills to be an entrepreneur. Our organization and others, we exist to help provide those skills. Here's the one thing I would say.
Okay.
Entrepreneurialism is something you commit to. And
Say
entrepreneurialism,
that to the table.
so I would say entrepreneurialism is a lifestyle,
Okay.
right? It's something that you commit to 24/7. It's not something that you're going to punch a clock and you're going to say, I'm going to work 8 to 5 and then I'm going to off and do my other things. It really is a lifestyle. You've got to be willing to absorb some risk. Typically, entrepreneurs don't get paid to be entrepreneurs until they build something of value, right? So this idea of an entrepreneur who, you know, eats macaroni and cheese for dinner and foregoes lots of stuff, sometimes that's the way it is.
It is.
Sometimes it is that way. You got to be willing to sacrifice for it. Second thing I would say is that entrepreneurialism is really not about the big things that you see. Not all entrepreneurs are going to be Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook. Sometimes I think community and media turn some of these entrepreneurs into rock stars,
Yeah, they do.
right?
They do.
And that's great, and it's a wonderful example. Entrepreneurialism is about going in the office every day, creating value, engaging in
day.
community, finding customers, building great products or services that go to customers. So be prepared for that. Third thing I would say to entrepreneurs is you've really got to have a thick skin.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people exist
yeah.
to tell you your idea is really bad.
Yeah.
They exist to say, I don't think it's going to work. You got to ignore that.
Yeah.
If you believe in yourself and believe in your idea, believe in the technology you're bringing to market, the service that you're bringing to market, if you're listening to those customers that are saying, yes, I want what you've got, ignore the rest. Ignore the rest. But you do really have to have thick skin, especially if you go into an organization or you create an organization that's going to look for that venture capital you talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
You know, venture capitalists, it's their money. They get to put that money wherever they want to put that money.
And they do.
And they, because it's their money, do have the right, the responsibility, and the privilege to say, that's a good idea, I want to support it. That's not a great idea. VCs are not always friendly. They see a lot of different technologies. They see a lot of
Yeah,
organizations.
I was in that industry.
And so when
I'm just telling you.
when you're sitting in front of an organization that they're investing money in you and in what you're doing, if they don't like what you're going to see, they'll tell you, you know,
I
I don't see it. I don't see it. We jokingly say, you know, they exist to tell you that your baby's ugly,
Oh, my God.
right? And so that's a really hard thing.
It is.
But as an entrepreneur, you got to develop that thick skin. But look, there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur
Yes.
than in 2019. I believe with everything that I am that there's never been a better place to be an entrepreneur than Dayton, Ohio.
I think you're right.
From local to state to federal government, many resources are being aligned around the entrepreneur.
I need you to give a phone number because our time is up.
Absolutely. 281-0168.
What area code?
That is 937-281-0168, the Entrepreneur Center. You're going to talk to Bonnie. Bonnie is going to be able to direct you wherever you need to go. Also look at www.techdayton.com, TECDayton.com. You can connect to all of us at that point. You'll see some great stories of entrepreneurs. You'll engage in a process of connecting with us and being directed to the right resources. Let me put a plug in for one other website, www.daytontechguide.com, DAYTONTECHGUIDE, daytontechguide.com. Dayton Tech Guide is a website that exists to aggregate a lot of what we're talking about together. Our organization, other organizations, you're going to see calendars.
Good.
You're going to see lists of people who you can connect with. You're going to see times and locations for supportive brown bag lunches and learning events and engagements. On a monthly basis, we have a day devoted to entrepreneurs that you network and you connect. There are major organizations, major engagements that you can participate in. So techdayton.com, or DaytonTechGuide.com, you'll connect to us.
And I want to say that hasn't today's session been just so empowering? I have learned so much, and I must confess openly, I am going to take advantage of this center. Why? Because they got it going on, folks. I encourage you in this year of the entrepreneur to take advantage of the information that has been disseminated, avail yourself of the resources, and know that Michelle Graves, your money lady, is right there behind you, wanting only the very best for you. Making America great again starts with entrepreneurs. It starts with people willing to take the risk and be willing to be patient for the things that will evolve. Of course, it doesn't hurt to have Right Pat right around the corner. I'm not kidding you. But anyway, it's been a great show. I'm Michelle Graves. Again, thank you for listening in and look forward to being of service. You can also watch this in case you miss pieces. You can also watch this entire show on YouTube and just go to The Power of Money with Michelle Graves, type in the Entrepreneur Center, and boom, you'll see it. Take care. God bless you.